Hey everyone, my name's James and this is Ohm Audio. I'm a sound designer and composer for film, animations and video games. And today I just wanted to talk a little bit about some aspects of sound design that I did for our new game Devils Doner Kebab, which is over on itch.io. This game was made as part of the Scream Jam 2024. I was on a team of 3 people, myself, Sean from Massive Melt Media, and Nikita Solomat-Yukhanov. Sean is an amazing guy. He was the programmer and the narrative lead for the game. Really talented developer. Always have a great time working with him. It was a really smooth process, which I know that can't always be said for game development, but we just had a lot of fun making it, and kind of the pieces fell together really well. And Nikita, who this was my first time working with Nikita, but another amazingly talented person. He was a 3D artist. Really smooth process again. Just everything kind of clicked. And yeah, we're really happy with the game. If you want to go check it out, I'll leave a link in the description of this video. Devils Doner Kebab over on itch.io. But yeah, I suppose today I really wanted to talk a little bit about the audio direction for the game. So specifically to do with dialogue. And that's kind of what a lot of this video is about, is talking about the choice of dialogue and the direction we went with designing the narrative and the dialogue. So we kind of initially thought voice acting would be great for the game. We have scrolling text, and you know, it would fit relatively well, but we only had a week to make the game. Part of the rules of the game jam was, you know, we had to work on pretty much everything within that week. And so recording, voice acting, everything like that, it would be a lot. It would be, we could definitely do it, but it would have increased the scope a bit. So we decided to maybe design more gibberish-esque dialogue for the game. And by gibberish, I mean, you know, non-words, just, you know, sounds and noises to fill in the scrolling text that we decided to go with for the game. And it actually turned out to kind of be a blessing in disguise that we went with this, because I think it really fit the game and added a lot more to it than if we'd gone with voice acting. The voice acting, I think, might have been a bit more jarring and a bit more like almost too clean for the style of game we're going for. But then, you know, the kind of tricky part arises with gibberish is that, or with the gibberish kind of style dialogue, is that, you know, there's so many ways you can go with it. There's so many different types of games that employ gibberish. You know, there's a lot. You almost open up a whole other can of metaphorical worms for it, and in you know, the design aspects of it there's different challenges. So I kind of wanted to really be considerate with it. I didn't just want to throw in, you know, okay, some beeps and boops and clicks, which you know, work for other games. Say you have a more retro, like 8-bit style of like a 2D game. You know, you don't want anything too clean for that. You kind of want to match the visuals, and that was what I was going for. I wanted to kind of match the visuals with the dialogue. So I kind of looked at 2 games that I really liked. I looked at Animal Crossing, which has a very vowel and consonant based style of gibberish, where each letter is kind of given a sound relative to the letter that it is. So like a, b, k, d, f, g, like those kind of, you know, that kind of style, and then processed, pitched up and around, and made kind of sped up and made faster. And that can be done in a number of ways. You can do it by recording, like I just did there, and then, you know, manipulating it, or you can synthesize it with kind of a vocoder, like a Vocaloid kind of style thing. And I really like that. You know, it's super charming in Animal Crossing. They have, like, I love, you know, how each character has a personality, even though they're not saying anything, except for the text you can still read, but they're not saying anything specifically. They're kind of just, you know, just jabbering on. It's nothing too, you know, intense. And they do have like a little theme as well that kind of goes with it, but it just, you know, they have such personality and such emotion communicated with no words, basically, except for the text. So yeah, I really enjoyed that, and I tried to do a little bit of that. I tried a little bit of that style when I was designing it, and it was good. It worked, but it wasn't, I didn't think it was unique enough. You can tell that it's that very specific style and other games have used it as well. So I was looking at another game, and I kind of wanted the dialogue to be a bit more human, to be a bit more like real, without it being too, spoken or too natural. But I definitely wanted some of to keep some of the natural elements of it. So I looked at the Sims, and in the Sims they speak kind of like a gibberish called Simlish, which is much more. There's very little processing apart from your usual vocal processing. It's just words, but they're not saying anything. It's all about the inflections and how they say the words, the emotion behind the words, how it's performed, which I love. I think it sounds great, and it's silly, but it's charming as well. And I really like that, and I kind of wanted to almost fuse the two, so you had this slightly processed, definitely not natural kind of vibe to it, but then I wanted that performance and that emotion, a bit more of it than in the Animal Crossing dialogue to come through. So I kind of mashed them together and just worked from there. And I suppose with that, the performance is extremely important and the processing is really important. So I suppose without yapping on too much, which I definitely already have, we will open up Ableton here. And I will just kind of go through a little bit of how I went about making the dialogue and how I went about designing the dialogue. You'd be surprised. I think it's all about the consideration and the concept before. The actual skills employed are there's nothing groundbreaking. You're not going to be like oh my god, I never even thought of using that technique. They're all techniques that, if you're even semi-familiar with audio and recording audio, you'll know about these. So if you're not at all, this is just the software I use, Ableton. You can use whatever, it really doesn't matter. I know a load of people are always like, what's the best, what's the most efficient, what's the most effective. Whatever you like is the most effective. I just happened on Ableton and I really like it, and I think I like it because I know how to use it now after years and years of learning it. But yeah, so I suppose the first thing I really considered was like I wanted it to be gibberish, but I also wanted it to not be as human as The Sims, but trying to find a middle ground. So I kind of just was thinking about where our character was. So I'll kind of go through the main character dialogue. So it's based around them basically trying to find food after a long night out, a long evening out, possibly in the club, possibly in a bar. They could have been anywhere. They're probably shouting a bit, so I was thinking maybe they'd be a bit higher pitched, a bit hoarse, maybe slightly tipsy. So I had some kind of I was thinking maybe I'd throw some hiccups in there, and that could sound really, I was thinking before, that could sound really cool if that was pitched up or pitched down. I didn't know where I'd go with it, so I just started with that. And as to what I would say, I just kind of went with sounds that I liked, and also just things that were on my desk said, like a cup or a mug, a bowl or something like that, and just say it in a weird way. So I suppose I'll just go straight into it and record something, and we'll see how it sounds, and I'll show you the kind of processing that I went with. So yeah, I'll just quickly record something in here, just clean up the session a little bit. Yes, so so yeah, I'll kind of just throw something down and see how it sounds. So yeah, that's the audio. I'll just off there and back to this, and we'll just have a quick listen through. Yeah, so there's a little bit of plosive and sibilance. We won't worry too much about that. In a ideal world, and when I was recording this, I would probably have done a few takes, get it perfect, get it how I want. But yeah, that's, we'll work with that for the moment. So the first thing I notice, I instinctively go to it, but a little bit of a peak here on one of the hicks, I think. So I'll just naturally go in, split the clip with Control E, and take it down a little bit, just because, I don't want anything to be too out there. Maybe still a little bit louder because it is a hiccup, it is a bit more jarring. But yeah, other than that, looks good. I won't worry too much about it. I think I did it there. I just consolidated with Control J, so I just mashed the clips back together. And what I will do as well, just out of habit, is, so this is audio also that's going to be implemented into a game, so when it's triggered, we want it to start right away. So yeah, this little bit at the beginning doesn't really matter too much, but I like to be picky with it, get it a little bit, a little bit further up, and make sure it's not clipping. That's perfect. And then same at the end, we kind of want it to end when the trigger ends. So that's also ended there. Cool. So that looks good. I'll just drag it back to the beginning so that when I play it, it is starting at the beginning. So yeah, so I like to do a couple of just little housekeeping things before I get into the manipulation. They're kind of just, this isn't a mixing of a dialogue mixing tutorial or anything like that. It's purely just how I warped it. But there is a few things that I think can be useful that you probably already know, but if you don't, no worries at all. We'll just do it here. So the first thing is a bit of an EQ. So what this does is just takes out certain frequencies that I don't really need or want in the clip. So the human hearing is, we can kind of hear roughly in the realm of 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. And so everything out of that, we just don't really need. And as you get older, your hearing range kind of decreases. So, and with vocals as well, you don't really need a lot of the lower end. So this is, as I said, not a finite rule. I for this one, maybe up to 100, something like that. It'll be different for every clip. Don't ever follow a guide for EQ. There's rough rules for different instruments and voices and situations that you can follow, but in general, everything's unique, and I think it's good to approach every clip as if it's, or every recording as a different entity, as something you've almost never approached before. That's how I like to approach it anyways. And I always learn something new every time. So, it's worth doing that. I might just quickly. So yeah, around there, it's a little bit harsh. So I'll just duck it a little bit. Like, no, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. So yeah, there's a few little kind of like, not necessarily plosives, but like distortions of when I've like breathed into the mic a bit weirdly. So honestly, for some of this stuff, like when I was editing it, just take it out. You don't necessarily need it. Here as well, bit of a gap. Don't think I need it. I kind of like, it doesn't really matter. Maybe you want a different cadence, but I'll just have a quick listen. So there as well, I don't really like that too much, so we'll see how it sounds like this. It might sound cool. Yeah, that sounds fine, and again, same as, I kind of like to commit to these changes earlier, so I like to just consolidate the clip and work with it from that way. You can always undo if you want to undo it, but yeah, I kind of like to commit my changes as I make the decisions, or else you could be just messing with it all day. So yeah, that sounds cool. I like that. So now that's a good base kind of to start off. I tend to always do some form of EQ, just to kind of get yourself a nice little clean thing, but we're going to be twisting and manipulating it anyway, so it's not too important if you don't have access to that. So yeah, so this is where it gets really fun, and this is where I really like Ableton. I think it works super well. We can see after consolidating here, our peaks are at -6.82. Won't get into too much of that, but that's around a good range. You can go up or go down as you need, or as the game needs. I like to kind of leave it up to the game to control some of it and just have all my stuff uniform at a certain like -6 or -3, whatever. But yeah, so just for the sake of this, it's not too important. If anyone's interested, I can kind of talk about it more another time. But so yeah, so this is the warping kind of section of Ableton, and this kind of manipulates the speed and the pitch at which a clip is played back. And we have a variety of algorithms here that we can choose from of how we want to go about warping the audio. So they all do different things. You know, the names kind of generally describe what they are. You know, you have complex, which is for like more complex waveforms, for things like vocals, for things like, you know, I tend to use it if I want to kind of maintain the integrity of the wave file, so keep it as it is but pitch it up or down. Generally, it doesn't always work like that. You kind of need to play with each one for, again, different situations require different tools. But if you don't know about them and you have access to Ableton, play around with them. They're really, really powerful, really, really fun, especially for sound design. But yeah, I kind of wanted it to be jumpy and focus on the transients. So focus on, you know, these parts here, the peaks, and work through it there. So I just stuck with that. I'm not snapping it to any grid. I just on transients. Left this at 100. You know, it's this again, you kind of need to play with it to really get how it affects it. And I can go more in depth into this another time. But so yeah, so first thing what I want to do is, if you notice this warp button is engaged, the first thing I want to do is disengage it, because when it's disengaged, I am able to, you'll see the clip up there changing. So as I pitch it down, it actually stretches out the audio. You can't hear it when it's this pitch down. You know, as if someone's kind of been slowed down in time. I didn't really want that, because, you know, I want it to be faster, matching the scrolling text. So I actually went for a little bit of a pitch up. You can go really extreme. It's like a mouse or something, but yeah, I still wanted to have something visible, or something audible, not visible, something audible. So I like the way it's kind of, you know, you can notice how it's jumpier, it's more like juddery, and this is what I wanted. But I didn't really want it at that pitch, but I wanted it at that kind of tempo, and I didn't want to, you know, cut all the clips together, and you know, I like to kind of leave it evolve naturally. So what I do now is re-engage warp. So yes to this, I want to keep the current timing. Warp markers, I'm not using warp markers, so it's fine to just leave it. And now you'll notice when I change the pitch dial here, the waveform doesn't change. So it's locked to that area, and this can give us some really fun effects. So say I pitch it way down, but leave it at this leave it at this length. You notice how it's almost catching up. It's trying to, like, it's filling it in, or it's leaving certain parts out so it can keep up with the waveform. And when this is pitched up a little bit more, and that already sounds, that's quite cool. But that's not exactly what I did. I kind of went for more, I want it again to be a bit more natural around an actual, you know, it was using my voice, so pitching it down by like -3. When you start to go beyond that, it starts to sound too, you know, unnatural. So around -2, I got this. And you notice how it kind of chops it. It's like almost chopping it into a kind of more of a transient kind of style, and I really like that. It kind of went really well with the scrolling text. So yeah, that's how I did the player character design. You can play around with it. You can do so much with this kind of function. Literally just this and a raw waveform. Try it on any files. I really liked how it turned out with the dialogue. But, you know, say for instance you have a just for an example, you have a pitch plugin. You can, again, it's whatever, doesn't matter the plugin. I use this. I think I've had this for years and years. I got it when I was just starting out, and I actually quite like how it sounds. But you have a dry wet control here. Meaning you can put it in parallel, so you can have the dry signal come through and add a bit of the wet, and this can give you like almost like a slightly paranormal or creepy effect. If I pitch it up, just go +5, and I leave it here, It's not exactly what I wanted for the character, but there was another character I did, slightly kind of a more evil, supernatural kind of guy, which I would pitch down for, and you get this kind of spooky effect as well. So yeah, that's pretty much everything I did. There was a few different voices, so they were all just variations of this technique, you know, pitching it up or down in different ways, warping it in different ways, just playing around until I found something that kind of fit the character a bit more. And yeah, I'd encourage you just, you know, go around and play around with it yourself and see what you can get from it. You know, try following some of the techniques I laid out and take them further, you know, or try loads of different things, and you'll be surprised what you can get. But yeah, that's everything. And if you'd like to see more of this, just let me know. You know, I'll be posting some more redesigns, some kind of how I approach redesigning for animations or for film or for video game cutscenes, stuff like that. I'll post more of that. But yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.